Hi. In this screencast I'm going to demonstrate a couple ways of creating speech bubbles that you might use for comics or photoshopping pictures, things like that. So it's going to be a pretty short screencast, hopefully. A lot shorter than my typical ones. So here we go. First of all, I'll show you an example of what we're trying to achieve. Bring this in here. And you can see, if anybody's looked at our blog, you'll know this is Heathen X's avatar. So here's one type, just a nice oval speech bubble. Next we might do a square one, like this, or a rectangular one. And thirdly, maybe a thought bubble like this. Alright, so that out of the way. First of all, if you're going to do speech bubbles, obviously you're worried about text as well. So one thing you might do is try to find some good fonts. One place I recommend looking is a site called blambot.com. There we go. If you just hit blambot.com, you get to this page, the front page. You click on fonts here up at the top. And then they have a wide variety of fonts. Some of them are free, some of them are pay fonts. So if you're just trying to fiddle around with stuff, you want to try out some free fonts, you can look at the ones without the red dots on them, and those are free. So they've got dialogue fonts, design fonts here. If you scroll down the page, effect fonts, symbol fonts, things like that. So there's a pretty good choice there. There's lots of other places that you could probably find decent fonts as well. And we'll get started here. So first of all, maybe we'll look at doing a nice oval type of speech bubble. Now the way I do it is very quick. I just pick the ellipse tool and I draw out the shape that I want. We'll bring up the fill and stroke dialog box, and we'll change the fill to white, and we'll change the stroke, turn it on, change it to black. We'll probably make it a little narrower. We'll try 2 or even 1 this size. Okay. So there's our oval. Now it's actually very quick what I'm going to do, and it's the same for each type of bubble really. We'll get this out of the way. Make some room here. First thing we want to do is turn this into a path. Right now it's an ellipse. So we can do object. Shoot, see, I don't use the, there we go, object to path. Shift Control C. I usually use the keys to do it, but so now if we double click this, we'll see there's nodes on here. Now, wherever you want the little leader coming out of that bubble, we'll just double click to create 3 new nodes here. So say we want the point coming out on this side. So what I'm going to do is just create, double click here, maybe double click here, double click in the middle. So we have 3 new nodes that we've created. Before we do anything with them, we want to window them and make sure that they're corner nodes. Okay? And once they're there, you just click and drag the middle one out. Then you can adjust the handles to get the shape that you want. And there you go. Speech bubble. Very quick. One thing you might do that I've done in some cases is I want to create a drop shadow under these. So what I'll do is hit Control D to duplicate this object. And now I've got the duplicate on top. I'm going to turn off the stroke, make the fill black. Okay. And I'll probably, first of all, I'll offset it. So what I'll do is I will, while it's selected, I'll hit Control J to get a dynamic offset handle up here, and I'm just going to drag it slightly larger than the original. We will blur it a little bit. Maybe we'll try a blur of 1. That may be good. And we'll just do 2 here. Okay. we can send that back behind the bubble, and we might even drop it down a little bit, maybe even reduce the opacity a little bit. So then we get a nice drop shadow underneath our speech bubble in case we want to have a little more separation between the speech bubble and what's below it. Okay, so there's one, very simple. Next we might do a rectangular speech bubble. So we'll grab the rectangle tool, draw a rectangle here, adjust holding control, and grab one of the corner handles here at the top right, and adjust the radius of curvature there. So once I have that selected, I'll go back up to 100% opacity. We'll go white with the fill, and then the stroke will go black. Same as we had before, we'll just leave it that way. And again, it's the same method. We will turn this into a path, so it's now no longer a rectangle. Double click it, and we'll pick our spot. So we'll say we want a node here, and a new node somewhere in the middle. We will just, even though these are already corner nodes, just double check, make sure they're corner nodes. Grab the middle one, drag it down like that. Okay, so there's another quick and easy speech bubble. Thought bubbles are much the same. We can do an ellipse, okay, and then just create a duplicate, and we'll scale it down. Okay, now what I've done here is if you're looking at the top here, and we have this on the right hand side. You can't see it because of the width of my window here, but if you expand this Inkscape window out, you're going to see different buttons here to push that will do these things. They will scale stroke width with your object. That's the one I've unchecked. Okay, so normally I think the default is if you scale an object down, say by 50%, its stroke will scale down by 50% as well. So here I've turned that off so that each time I create a duplicate and a smaller object, the stroke remains constant. That's what we want. We want the outline of these objects to remain the same width or thickness. So there we go. There's a simple thought bubble. Okay, you can play around with those. So there's 3 very quick and easy speech bubbles you can use for some type of comic work you might be working on. Now one other thing I want to cover is now you're putting the text into these objects. So it's very simple. Click the text tool. Now it's important, don't just, normally when we create text on a lot of our screencasts, we click this button and just click once and start typing away. We want to have flowed text. We want to have a little more control over the text. So what we're going to do is instead of just clicking and typing, we're going to drag a window like this and then type. So we could say, testing 1, 2, 3, blah, blah. Now, you don't see it here because obviously the window was too big. Here, let me see if I can get that. There we go. We'll bring up the text tool. Problem is I have my font size way too big for my objects here. So we'll set that as the default. Try this again. Select the window. There we go. Testing 1, 2, 3. Here is the wonderful text. Okay. Now because we did it in a window, when we double click it, we get this handle here. Okay, and we can adjust kind of the flow of this text. For an oval, you typically want to have this center justified. So in the text and font dialog, once the text is selected, you click center justify and apply. Okay, so now we have it here. Next we want to change the font, obviously, so we're going to change it to one of these fonts that I've downloaded. One I like is called Letter-O-Matic. And then we can either scale up the text like this, make sure it fits, entirely the way we want it. with our handle here, and there we're good to go. Okay, so and we can do that same type of thing. In a rectangle, you don't necessarily have to center justify, whatever looks good to you. Okay. Now, one other type of bubble we might try to do is more of an action type of bubble. I've tried this a few different ways. The way I find that is easiest is we'll draw an ellipse. This is only one type, so we'll just have a look and see if it works. We have an ellipse, and we'll grab the Bezier tool. If you hear a few bangs in the background, it's I'm recording this in the evening of Canada Day. Excuse me while I have a sip of coffee, and you'll hear a little bit of fireworks in the background probably. So if you hear a banging, that's what it is. So anyway, we've got our ellipse. We're just using this as a guide, okay? What I'm going to do is just single click a bunch of lines here around, not even, but I'm going to use that ellipse as a guide. I don't have to be right on it, but we're going to try something here. You can see I've dragged a little bit when I should have just single clicked, and we'll close that up. So there, now we can get rid of our ellipse in the center. Okay, so we've got a kind of a bang type of shape here. We'll probably increase the stroke style a little bit. Maybe we'll go to 2. And now what I'll do is I'll take one of these fonts that I used. Like this. And we'll change the font to one of these ones I chose. Let's try that same. Where is it? Letteromatic. Okay. And what I'm going to do is do a little bit different treatment on the text. I'm going to, first of all, bring up the fill and stroke dialog box, and I'm going to, actually before I turn it into a path, what I'll do is I'll bring up the text dialog once more. I'm just going to change this to bold, make it a little thicker. Okay. Next I'm going to turn this into a path, Control-Shift-C. I'm going to turn off the fill and turn on the stroke. Okay, so now they're hollow letters. And actually, you know what? We'll turn on the fill, but we'll make it white. Okay. Now, I'm going to split up these letters by doing, now that they're a path, I'm going to split them up by doing break apart. Okay, like this. Now you'll see that we lost a couple of closed shapes. So one, if we send this back, you'll see it's there. This is one shape. The outlines are another shape. Okay, I'm going to group those two letters. Make sure all the letters are a single piece. Probably have to group these two. Okay, and I'm just going to change them a little bit. I'm going to scale them up by varying degrees. Again, I've got that option turned on where the stroke, does not get scaled with the object, so it remains constant. And we might change things a little. Bang is kind of appropriate, I guess, with these fireworks going off. So something like that. Now I can take that, group it, enlarge it a little bit. I did turn that stroke. Let's see if we can make that stroke a little bit bigger. We'll ungroup it, and we'll change the stroke to something heavier, and then group it again. So there we go. There's a nice kind of action type of text that you might use. Fairly easy to create, didn't take too long. So that's it. Fairly short screencast. Hopefully you find it useful. I haven't done anything about drawing comics because I'm not very good at it, but there are lots of tutorials out there on how to draw comics, and even a few good ones on how to get those into Inkscape. So maybe I'll post a link or two in the post along with the screencast, and you can check those out as well. Okay? Thank you very much for watching.